thought you said he wasn't going to be here.
I thought he said, he thought the weather was going to keep him home.
Well, it did.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for February 20th, 2019. Is there anybody, if there's anybody besides WACA recording this meeting, could you please let us know? All right, thank you. I'm going to, we're running a bit late. I did, these matters, these items are not on the agenda, so informally I did want to take the opportunity to speak on a few issues, a few things. This town and this community has lost in the past week three longtime town residents and folks who have been very involved in town government. And I wanted to note that. So Benny Alberini, who was the highway superintendent, of course, is well known around town, passed away on February 15th. And he'll be, he was as I said, a great member of the community, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family. Paul Wyrzykowski passed away on February 16th. He was worked at the Ashland Public Library, very active in town, and husband of Cynthia Scherer, who's retired from the town collector's office. And Josie Murray passed away February 17th, the wife of Robert Murray, who works for the Department of Public Works. So we just wanted to note their passing, and I'm sure the board members, I know the board members will have more to say under board reports, and I think I'd just like to ask for a moment of silence in remembrance of these folks. So thank you for that. And also wanted to note that the board did, and many of you know Jake Silver and his great effort that he and his family and this community have been making in his battle with cancer. And we were hoping to present a proclamation at his birthday party this past week, but that was needed to be canceled. And but we did want to let the community know that the board did issue a proclamation, which the family has, and we'd like to ask everyone to keep Jake and his family in their thoughts and prayers as this Sunday Jake celebrates his birthday, and we have proclaimed this Sunday, which would be February 23rd, as Jake Silver Day in Ashland. So we'd ask everyone to remember to think about him and his family in this time, and especially on Sunday. And so we just want to recognize. So congratulations, Jake, on Jake Silver Day. So just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob.
All right, and with that, we'll start the formal part of this meeting. So we just came out of executive session. I will. We'll have a short time for citizens' participation. Does anybody want to talk to us about citizens' participation? Yes. Mr.
Okay.
DeSoni, hi.
Good evening, Mark DeSoni, 49 Hawthorne Road. And that didn't come to mind for me coming up here, but I'm trying to Betty. Is that Betty Montenegro? Benito?
Alberini.
Alberini.
Is it? Is it the same one?
No.
Okay, so now skip right down to Jake. Yeah. Tough seeing a person. I said this Board of Health. Tough for you seeing a person suffer, but then again, he thought he was getting through it, but he now got hit worse. And everything we do for the town and the prayers and stuff like that, yes. Jake is a tough fighter, and to the very end, he will be known for that. And for all else, in this town is what this town is. It gives prayers, hope, and stuff like that. One more thing, I asked at the Board of Health meeting last night, and I asked with you, Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Town Manager, how can this town get a notification of being heart healthy?
So your question is, how can we be heart healthy? Does anybody want to address that? We may need to follow up with that, Mark.
Are you talking about being a more healthy community?
Well, be acknowledged as a heart healthy town.
Yeah, there is,
Being designated a heart-healthy
Yeah.
town? Yeah, there's probably some program.
yeah, I think the
We'd have to
state
look
does
at it.
have a heart-healthy
Yeah,
program, similar to dementia-friendly.
yeah. Well, thank you, Mark. It's a good idea. We'll follow up, Jen. Mr. Senko.
Yes, Izzy Asanko, 9 Lakeview Terrace, president of Friends of the Council of Aging.
Ah.
I'm here to recognize the Middlesex Savings Bank today. Joanne Duffy and I were invited to the headquarters in Westboro, January 24th, to receive a $15,000 donation to the Friends of the Council of Aging. And it came out of the Middlesex Charity Foundation,
Oh, good.
and they donated $1.4 million to the community, to 84 communities.
Oh, okay. Shoo.
Yeah, I know it.
I mean,
No, not quite, Rob, not quite.
yeah.
To service organizations around Ashland. And we, the Friends, are very grateful that we have been one of them. I'm here to acknowledge that gift and to say the Friends are currently discussing how to utilize these funds to benefit the maximum number of Ashland seniors. Does anybody have any questions?
No, it's a great gift, and I think the Friends of the Public Library also received a similar gift or grant as well, so I think it's just fantastic, the work that you guys do, and, I'm sure you're gonna spend it very well.
We are, and I'm also going to ask if you have any suggestions. We have a lot of things going on, working on it, but you guys know how to spend money, and that's why I'm here.
Very good.
If you'd like to help us along, you're welcome to come in to any of our meetings and sit down.
That's
Really,
great.
and,
Great.
Great.
Steve,
Thank
I
you.
know you're very close to the Council of Aging, and you sit on their meetings, and I welcome any one of you selectmen and selectwomen to come and
Okay.
visit us sometime, really.
When do
And
you meet, Izzy?
We meet every first Thursday of the month, and you're welcome. You're welcome to come and see how we spend this money.
Yeah.
Great.
I know we're going to be doing some good things, and I also want to talk to the people who are out there, the seniors who are out there, to come by the senior center and let us know what's going on, what you'd like to have, what's going on at the senior center. Anytime. This is money that they gave to all seniors here in Ashland, and
Good point.
we're really looking forward to spending it. We really are. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Izzy.
Thank you. What
So
you
they
guys do.
meet the first Thursday, the Lions Breakfast, then the Council on Aging, and then the Friends meet
Oh,
after
okay.
that. So-
Okay.
Oh, okay. Great. All right. I think we're ready for Beth Reynolds' update on the business incentive program.
Hi,
Hello, Beth.
Hi.
it's nice to be here tonight. So I feel like we have been talking about the business incentive programs for quite some time. So it's great to be in front of you tonight to tell you that we are starting to really roll them out. We've sort of had a conceptual idea and rollout over the past year. It was passed by the legislature this November, the home rule petition that we had put forward on town meeting floor. So that actually came through in November. So we're now officially really rolling out. The applications are going out to some interested parties. We actually do have 2 success stories already with the program. So I'm excited to sort of see this roll out even further, to see how many people would take advantage of that. 2 new businesses that are coming into town are either working on their applications, or we actually have one so far. One is for the brewery, the brewery and cafe, the coffee shop that's happening on Cherry Street, as well as Dolce de Leche. They are actually locating their a larger piece of their business here in Ashland. They have their storefront in Framingham, but they're actually going to be doing their wholesaling, and they're building a cafe inside their building as well to support those
Where's that gonna be?
businesses. 200 Homer Ave.
Telecom building.
So the Telecom building, yeah. So that's just 2 so far that have already seen the value in this and has incentivized them to really choose Ashland for their business. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this program could go, and we're excited to sort of roll it out further. So far, so good.
Great.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks. Any other questions? Are you finished, Beth, or, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it,
Oh,
yeah.
any other questions for her, or
No, I
thoughts on
read-
this? Exciting.
read through the application. It's a
Yep.
great application. I think it's
Good.
very clear, and it's nice to hear that businesses are already excited about it. I was a little disappointed. I saw that Zealous has decided not to come to Ashland, but we'll get someone else.
Yeah.
I know you'll keep working. And we have a brewery coming, so.
Yes, they did
Well-
find a spot in Medfield, I
Yeah.
believe. but
Oh,
It's
They
great-
tried, they were
Yeah,
working.
they did.
Yeah,
It's great that we have these kinds of tools available to, help new businesses particularly, right?
Yes.
And, we're always looking to expand our commercial base. And so I think it's a good example of public and private partnership. So, and I think the 3-year commitment and,
Yep.
that
The
is.
clawback clause, yeah.
Yeah, so it's,
yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
well-done program.
It
both
is,
of
it's
them.
exciting, and it's nice to see these, at least these, just so far, these 2 businesses, they're gonna be adding jobs. So Dolce is, there are 5 or more employees that they're gonna be adding, and same with the brewery. So I think that's really exciting, because we do have such an educated workforce here. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for that with other businesses
Yeah.
as well to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think their location in particular, because there's a big workforce in that building, and I think they have obviously a natural market, so,
Agreed.
good
Yes.
stuff.
Exciting. So far, so good. I will, we'll keep you posted as to what more comes in. If there's any questions, though, let me know.
great, thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Great.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks,
Okay.
Beth.
For all your effort there, kiddo.
All right, so I'll call up the Council on Aging for an update. Jim, right. And just to let you know, it's 7:30. I have to interrupt to start a public hearing, but we'll probably
Okay, all right.
suspend it. So you can continue on.
I think I'll be done by then.
Okay.
I'm Jim Zabrowski. I'm the Chair of the Council on Aging. Alexis Christopher, the Vice Chair, is also here. Do you want to wave?
Izzy, did you wave on that? No, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
It's in the minutes. Alexis wave.
Okay.
Izzy was
Jump
my
ship.
predecessor as Chair of the
Yes.
Council on Aging, and now he's the Chair of the Friends of the Council on Aging. It's a committee of 9 members. Currently, 8 seats are filled, and we do have 1 vacancy. So spread the word. We're looking for 1 strong candidate
No,
to
one
fill that spot.
vacancy.
I'd like to start out with a few thank yous. First of all, just thank you in general for keeping us in mind, especially with the fee reductions, excuse me, for seniors, like the trash fees and the upcoming stormwater enterprise fees. And just thank you for keeping us in mind, and please keep keeping us in mind for those things. Also, thank you for the work that you've done to bring senior housing into the rail transit district. I know that's not completely wrapped up yet, but thank you for the work that you've done there. I'd also like to throw in a thank you to Karen Spilka for getting the $30,000 for the dementia-friendly initiative here in town. And finally, I'd like to thank you for the excellent relationship that we have with the board, especially Steve Mitchell, and with the town manager, Michael Herbert. They're both frequent attendees at our monthly meetings. Jen has been to several as well. And I'd just like to relate a little quick story to you. A few of us went to training on how to be a council on aging a while back, and we were just mentioning that a selectman and the town manager come to our meetings on a regular basis, and everyone was just in awe of that. No other towns do that. It's a unique thing to Ashland, and we do appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
The senior center. The senior center is doing quite well. We have over 20,000 visits last year, and that's vastly undercounted due to the way they count it. We have well over 20,000 visits a year, and about 1,200 unique users of the senior center. So that's pretty healthy for a senior center. Also, thanks to the activities director, Kim Katab, we have activities going on at the senior housing areas within town. And in addition, we have a program that meets, I think it's 8 times a year at the library, called Great Decisions, where a bunch of us get together and talk about a topic that's assigned through a national organization, and it might be about Egypt or oil or Turkey, and we all have a lot of fun debating these issues and bringing up our points. And that's kind of a joint sponsored program between the senior center and the library. So, as I'm sure all of you are aware that we're an advisory board. We don't have any real power. We support the Director of Elder Services, but she doesn't report to us. And our role, as we see it, is to advocate for seniors throughout the town of Ashland. There are a lot of organizations in town that help seniors, but ours is the only one that's dedicated to helping seniors in Ashland. As an advisory board, we have no operating budget. We have no funds. We control no funds. We primarily advise. So, but we do have accomplishments nonetheless. First thing we've done over the past year or so is to revise our mission statement to emphasize our role as advocates for seniors. So it reads, "It is the mission of the Ashland Council on Aging to advocate for a variety of services and activities that support the independent well-being of all seniors while enhancing their dignity and self-respect." One of the things we advocated for in the past year or so is for a senior benefits roundtable. And the town brought in various experts from within the town to describe benefits that are available to the seniors. And we hope to do that on a fairly regular basis so that people are aware of what they can get through the town. We've also tried to do some outreach, and we've had a couple of meetings in the past year at housing units. The first one was in May at Ashland Commons. The next one was in October at Park Road Housing. And that meeting was attended by quite the cast of characters. We had Senate President Karen Spilka and a representative from Jack Lewis's office, and Town Manager Michael Herbert was there, and Steve Mitchell was there, and quite a number of other people, including several residents from Park Road. And we concluded that meeting with a tour of 2 apartments, which was quite an eye-opener to me. I had no idea that the units were so small, but it's good for the seniors that they are there. And we need more things like that in town. Some members of our council are involved in the Dementia Friendly Initiative. which I think is going to have its kickoff soon. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, it's in March.
March.
Yeah, March, I'll look it up while,
Okay. We also have a joint committee with the Friends of the Council on Aging to explore evening programs, either at the senior center or through the senior center. And we've had tables at the Farmers Market and at Karen Spilka's Health and Wellness Fair at Keefe Tech.
so, excuse me, Jim, it's the dementia-friendly kickoff is the 14th of March.
14th of March.
2 o'clock at the community center, and the committee is in the process of, in fact, Susan can update us as well with invitations going out.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Just a few more accomplishments. I'm sure you're all aware of the issues going on at the Mill Pond Rest Home, and the Council on Aging became aware of that. And we went back and forth on how the Council on Aging might be able to help out there.
Oh.
In the long run, what we decided was that one of their big issues is they need more money. So we've written to Senator Spilka and Representative Lewis to encourage them to have funding for, increased funding for rest homes in every budget, every year. And we'll continue to do that kind of lobbying.
How does that
on
work,
that
Jim?
issue.
Like, when you say they get funding, how does that, is it through their fees?
They
Is
get
it-
funding through Medicaid.
Oh, so it's a Medicaid rate
Yes.
issue, okay.
Right, so the issue is that they hadn't had an increase in like 6 years.
Oh.
And as of December, they got, I think, a 9% increase. But we want to see that kind of an increase every year until
Interesting.
rest
Okay.
homes stop closing because they can't afford to be in operation. And until places like Mill Pond stop having issues that concern so many people through the town, as well as, of course, the residents who live there. So,
Sure, thank you.
we put together a new senior center brochure. We are working on public service announcements with WACA, and we have revised our policies and procedures, which were 19 years old and still described us as a group that more or less had a management role for the director of the center, which is long gone. We have a few requests. First is, we definitely need more senior housing and more affordable housing, and just keep up the good work on that. For the Valentine Estate, keep the senior center in mind, keep the food pantry in mind. I've been to a few senior centers, and I happen to like the homey ones. And a place like that, to me, could make a very welcoming place for a senior center.
How would that work? I mean, because we have a senior center now, so how do you envision?
We have a community center.
Well, the senior center is a little bit crunched for space, and they, in the long run, would be interested in either increasing their space. I don't know if I would be interested in them moving to another location. I don't know if that is an official stance or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it could potentially be a new space for the food pantry.
Yeah.
Could be a new space for some staff offices. You know, it certainly has potential for a lot of things.
Right.
But, you know, relative to the elder services in particular, or community services, it may have some synergy.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Okay. Handicap spaces in the town. In particular, the one by the post office, right? There's a space right there. It's got a nice sign, but the lines painted on the road are like practically completely gone. And I know you can't do anything about it in the winter, and I know there are plans to address it, but
Oh, okay.
just something that's definitely is needed, both there and at the library. And I'm not aware of other places, but there are probably other places through the town that need better marking so that people don't accidentally park where a handicapped person may need to park. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your continued support, and we will look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
And thank you for your
very much.
efforts.
Yeah.
Any questions for Jim while he's here?
Yeah, just one, not
Comment?
actually, I guess a question. So the Globe today, I don't know if you saw the Globe, had an article about the challenges that particularly senior centers are having with attracting a broader range of seniors.
Yeah.
You know, the baby boomers are, they want to rock and roll till that's their expectation, so
Yep.
it's not, the senior centers aren't necessarily attracting that kind of active senior population.
Right.
And, I know the council's spoken about it, I know Joanne has talked about it as well, but,
Yeah.
apparently it's not an Ashland phenomenon, it's something that's
It's bigger, yeah.
kind of
yeah.
a generational thing.
We're known, Ashland's Senior Center is known for their exercise classes. And there are people that try to come that are under 60. So.
They
try to
sneak in, do they? Yeah.
Yes. So,
Sneaky people.
but so that in certain areas, like certain senior centers are known for one thing versus another, but we're known
Oh,
within
good.
the communities that exercise, and we get people from all over.
I
Very
know
good.
someone who comes from Framingham for at least one of the exercise
Oh,
classes.
nice.
Yeah. I know somebody from Medway.
Wow.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank
Very
you,
good.
Alexis.
I realize we're pretty much out of time, but I'd like to add my own response to that judging from the numbers, it looks like people come when they're ready. And that, to me,
Good
that's
point.
fine. If
Yeah.
the younger baby boomers are not ready to go to the senior center, someday they will be. And I'm sure it'll work out fine in the long
Yeah.
run.
Well, it's obviously it's a great place. It's
Yep.
warm, it's inviting, you guys do a great job, so
Thanks.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Thanks a lot.
So I'm going to, we have a public hearing at Wine Empire, alteration of premises. I'm going to open the hearing, reading the legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will conduct a hearing regarding an alteration of licensed premises for Wine Empire. This establishment currently holds a wine and malt package store license. The alterations are a modification of the current floor plan at the current location, Wine Empire, 12B West Union Street, Ashland, Mass. Public hearing will be held on the matter at Ashland Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. on Wednesday, February 20th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. Persons wishing to be heard on this matter are invited to attend the public hearing at the date and time noted above. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Selectman's Office, Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby, R-O-B-I-E, @ashlandmass.com. Signed, Robert Scherer, Chair, Board of Selectmen. So I've been informed that the applicant is unable to attend the meeting and has requested that we suspend the hearing until such time that the applicant can attend. Therefore, I will take a motion to suspend the hearing for the alteration of premise submitted by Wine Empire until March 6th
So
at
moved.
7:30. So the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. Motions. So the hearing is suspended until March 6th at 7:30. All right, thank you. All right, so our next item is St. Cecilia Parish one-day license for the St. Patrick's Day dinner on March 16th. And I see Mr. Powderly is back there. Do you wish to come up and talk to us about it? I think we have it in our packet. I think we had Bob's serving license. Do we want to talk to Bob, make him come up here, or,
Well, he came all this way.
Yeah,
Might as
so
well
come
let
on,
him
Bob.
up.
jeez. You can't speak for more than 25 minutes, okay? So,
Yeah, this is kind of an annual.
you got to go to the microphone, Bob.
That's okay. I wasn't gonna speak in complete
Yeah.
sentences, so. So this is an annual event. We have a St. Patrick's Day dinner at St. Cecilia's, and this year it's on March 16th, the day before St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And we asked for the license to serve alcohol.
All right.
Goes
Thanks.
from 6 to 10, no midnight hours here, or you won't need a police detail to,
Yeah. We have it from 5 to 9 here.
oh, 5 to 9, 5 to 9, 5,
Which is
I-
fine, I
whatever the
think,
printed
right?
word
Oh,
says,
okay.
that overrides, so.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, any questions on this one?
No, it's an annual, so
Gonna be the
it's
cabbage.
always
All
good
right.
to see Bob.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
do-
Anything else you want to say to us, Bob, while we're here?
I don't. Don't have anything else to say.
All right.
Green beer.
So I think I have a suggested motion here. Does someone want to, people
Sure,
have
I
it?
move that we approve the request for a one-day liquor license for St. Cecilia's St. Patrick's Day dinner, which will take place on Saturday, March 16th from 5 to 9 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bob.
Bob.
Tickets
Good
still-
seeing you again.
Tickets still for sale? Are the tickets still for sale?
Oh, they are. There's gonna be voters there.
There's gonna be voters. There you go, Joe. Oh, boy.
See you, Bob, thanks.
Thanks. Okay. So the next is the consent agenda. Does anyone want to take anything off the consent agenda?
Nope.
I just have one quick question on one of them, if we could,
Is that
pull
B?
one.
I have I want to pull B, at least just for some quick discussion. Is that the one, Joe, or anything else?
It's max performance?
Yeah,
is that-
that's the one. Okay, so let's pull that one. Do you have a motion for the rest?
I move that we approve the consent agenda, subtracting letter B.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, and then congratulations to, thanks to Bill Gatz for the freezer donation. And we reluctantly accept Donna's resignation from the Council on Aging. And congratulations to Eric Houle, who's just been hired for the Water and Sewer Department as a light equipment operator. Great. All right, so Joe, you had a question about
Yeah,
max
I have
performance.
a couple
Yep.
concerns with their request. After reading their letter and request, it states that a lot of the things that they do supports some of the local initiatives in the town of Hopkinton with respect to their swim and dive team and cross-country and JV field hockey with respect to Hopkinton, and nothing with respect to the town of Ashland, any of the Ashland youth sports. My concern is, if you look at the map, a good 80% of this is in the town of Ashland. And I'm a little concerned that the Ashland athletic program at the school is being eliminated or not being thought about with respect to some of the charitable contributions as a result of this road race. And if you look at it, 2.1, it's 4.6,
I saw that, yep.
about 8, it's about 9 miles of the contested race is in the town of Hopkinton. The remaining miles, which is a little over 20-something, is in Ashland, and on the roads of Ashland and in Ashland, if you look at it. So I would like Max Performance to reconsider some of a charitable donation be given to some of our youth sports activities in either in the school or in town, seeing that a good portion, I'd say 85% of it, is in the town of Ashland, if you take a look at it.
That's right. Good point.
And the other matter is that when they have this race, and unfortunately I've witnessed it myself, is that when they're doing the bike part of the race on the road, it's not a shut down road itself. A lot of the riders think so. So they're going 3 or 4 across, and they're actually stopping traffic on both sides of the road without any traffic, supervisory in and around the Cordoval Road area. Now, Cordoval Road can be kind of,
Did you say they shut down traffic in both lanes?
they shut down traffic in both lanes because they're 4 bikes across the road, racing.
But there's no.
The roads are not shut.
But
The
they're not
roads are not shut,
detailed.
but the riders
Yeah.
themselves think the roads are shut.
Oh,
and
I
they-
see. You're
Yeah.
talking about the riders.
So they need to be a little bit more aware of that, and the people that are putting this on, Max Performance, needs to remind these folks
Yeah.
that there are, they are contending with traffic on the roadway. It's not a shut route.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have, for marathon.
That's a good point, Joe. The Lions do a triathlon. Actually, we've discontinued the triathlon for several reasons, but when the Lions do their triathlon, there are monitors at all the intersections that monitor all of those transactions. Plus, whatever details are hired as well. So that's an important component.
The two details that they have in Ashland that I know, that I am aware of, are at the corner of Cordover Road and High Street where Burnham's is. Because that's a tight corner and all the bikes are going, they're turning onto High Street. So that, you know, they're shutting the traffic down there. The other is up on House Street by Indian Brook. That's a very narrow part of the roadway. And all those bikes are going up that way to get back to the state park.
Okay.
So, and they're using, you know, the back end of House Street, the rear entrance of Hockington State Park,
Right.
off of House Street to come back that way. So, yeah, those are the only two places that I know that we have
Do we know- I
police
mean,
presence.
And they've been doing this for 13 years. Is this the same route they always do?
It's the same
Do we
route.
know? I don't remember them last year, but I could have just forgotten.
It's the same route. So I'm a little concerned, and I would hope that, and I don't know if Chief Davis is gonna be around for when this happens or whatever, but I would hope that whoever is the interim or those that are being responsible for this, sit down and make sure that we have, at least let the cyclists know that it's not a closed route.
Well, so he says, I think he says in a letter they've checked with the police department, I mean, they've got their permits and all that.
Well, what they have done and what they're doing are two different things, which is the reason why I bring it up, because
Yeah.
I've witnessed it myself.
So, I guess, so these are paid details, right, that they're,
I'm assuming that they are,
Yeah.
yes.
okay. Well, I guess my question, procedurally, so they're not here to speak to us, so how do we get our comments or thoughts to
Is there any way we
them?
could send a note to them with respect to, just remind them, the cyclists that are involved in this race, that they need to, you know, remember that it's not a closed road race route, unlike the Boston Marathon, and that they need to follow the, you know, the rules of the road.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, I saw one car that wasn't gonna take no for an answer, and I almost witnessed an accident.
Yeah,
Because they were right across, and nobody was willing to, you know, concede, you know, so, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good, you have to
That's
be
how bad it
careful
gets.
about.
Yeah, but I think you also raised a good point about,
Yeah.
you know, they claim that they help to support local communities, and they specifically mention Hopkinton in here.
Yeah.
So, do we know for sure whether there's any support for Ashland relative to this?
I don't think
Okay,
there
so-
is.
I'm not aware of it, but we
Okay.
certainly can
Well,
ask.
we should certainly at least communicate that.
I don't wanna
that-
volunteer Joe, but I will, I think he should call him himself and talk to him.
Stefano, did you say?
But I think we
But
should, that's a good point, we should
somewhere.
reach out, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, no,
Those
I
are
think
the
it's a
only
good point,
concerns
it's a lot through Ashland, and yeah, why not? Okay, we finished with that, so we will follow up, someone will follow up on those points?
I don't even know who the person
Are
is.
you, do,
So we now have to approve this because we've taken it out of the consent agenda.
Yes, we do have to
do you
vote
want
for
to
it.
approve it, or do you want us to gather additional information and have it come back?
Yeah, I'd rather
we
have it come back. I think
Okay.
that
Do we
would
have
be a
time?
little bit
Okay.
more, you know, call it leverage, but at least, you know, we're not rubber stamping this. We have some concerns.
I mean, there's time. It's
Yeah.
not until
Is there
November,
time?
so-
Well, that was
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah,
my
sounds
question.
good.
All right, so, what's the motion then?
No motion.
No motion.
We'll just
We'll
put it on
defer it
record.
till,
Future agenda.
Okay,
and
so
have
it's
these issues
deferred.
followed
Okay.
up
Right.
on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate you.
Okay, so that's the, just to make sure, okay, so the consent agenda, all right. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, I'm just trying to find, okay. Oh, so, this was appoint Evan White to the Stormwater Committee to fill the vacancy of an ex officio position, and Evan is our engineer, correct? So any discussion on this?
So Regina, who used to work for us, was on their committee,
Yeah,
and now they're needing to replace her.
Yeah, so they're just replacing Regina with Evan. Evan has been attending the meetings and participating as he gets up to speed on the stormwater program. And so they were just appointing him to be a member of the committee.
okay. Do I have a motion to
Yep,
appoint?
I move that we appoint Evan White to the Stormwater Committee as an ex officio, and the term does not expire.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so here's one appoint a person to execute the purchase documents for map 4, lot 16, 7.1 acres plus or minus described in parcel 2 located at the rear of 9 Oregon Road. And this is the addition to the town forest, correct?
Correct.
And the actual address is 0 Oregon Road, it's just we had a typo on
Okay.
the agenda.
And
Oh,
when is
okay.
the closing happening?
I believe it's on the 27th, which is next Wednesday.
At what time?
We don't have a time yet. But
So-
usually they're in the morning to early afternoon.
All right, so
Yeah,
you need
forenoon.
one of us to be available to sign documents at the closing, and hopefully there won't be a repetition of the kind of issues that happen.
I don't foresee those for sure.
So,
You up for it again, or what?
I'm away
He's
next
away.
week.
Oh, you're away?
oh,
Oh,
I don't know.
I'm available,
great.
you know.
Anybody? Yeah,
I'm getting
Okay.
home early that morning and I have potential other stuff, so.
okay, so why don't we
Yeah.
we'll do
nominate Joe
Okay.
to do that? Do I have a motion?
Yep. I hereby move that the Board of Selectmen purchase the property as approved by Article 13 of the November 28th, 2018 special town meeting, and further authorize Joe Mignani to execute and enter into any and all documents necessary to effectuate the purchase of the property, which is that certain parcel of land located on Ashland Assessor's Map 4, Lot 16, including 7.1 acres plus or minus, as more fully described as Parcel 2 in a deed dated May 24th, 1996, and recorded in Middlesex Registry of Deed in Book 26355, page 182, located at rear 0 Oregon Road.
Great, all right. Thank
So
you for that
was the
motion.
motion, so second?
Motion's been made in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. None are opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, building department fees. All right, so Jen, I'll turn this over to you.
Sure. So this is just a preliminary discussion about the possibility of increasing building permit fees. So in preparation for our budget this year, we were looking at some of our revenue and realizing that we have not changed our building fees, our building inspection fees or permitting fees for close to a decade. And so our building commissioner, Mike Christofouli, did a little bit of an analysis of our surrounding towns to see what other towns are charging for building fees. And what we really came up with is that there's a range in the surrounding towns that can go from $10 per thousand, which is where we are, up to $15 per thousand. And I think there's a recommendation that we would like to make, although this would just be the first step because we need to hold a public hearing and have a discussion, would be to increase it to $12 an hour. So about it's essentially a 20% increase based on the analysis that we have done. And then secondarily, we found some discrepancies in what we charge for sort of the routine inspections. So there's a difference in fee structure for plumbing and gas as opposed to wiring. So we pay the inspector the same. They have to go on very similar inspections, but oftentimes the electrical may be $40 and the plumbing gas are $60. And so just to make them comparable at $60 a piece, because they usually, so for instance, if you had like a water heater, there may be one or two plumbing inspection, and maybe there's also an electrical, and they're not necessarily the same fee, which doesn't make a ton of logical sense. And so just to make that comparable a little bit easier for us to have some continuity in the department. So that's one of the things we'd like to propose.
Okay. Makes sense.
All right.
So what would be the process?
So the next step, we'd have to schedule a public hearing and have a conversation about that, so we can look for a date that works and post that appropriately and make sure that we can have some public discussion and then have a formal recommendation and then accept it.
All right. Okay, any other questions or thoughts on that? It's good to be moving ahead. Okay, the next item is to open the annual town meeting warrant.
Yes, it is that time again. I felt Susan and I were actually talking about the timeline last week, and we couldn't believe that we're now opening the annual town meeting warrant again. So I think in your backup, you have the timeline, which would be opening the warrant today, and then having a deadline for notice of intents to be submitted to me by March 22nd, and then we'll begin the due diligence period that can go through April 3rd and have public hearings that can run as soon as March 22nd, right up to town meeting, which this year will be May 1st. And so, once you review this, we can send this out to boards, committees, and elected officials tomorrow, just to make notifications.
When you say we'd probably act on this tonight, right? Is that what you're asking for
Yes.
in terms of the
Yeah.
schedule? Okay, any, it might be good just to review some of the large, other than the budget, what are the big items we're expecting? I know stormwater rates is going to have to
There's
be
potentially
set.
Yeah, there's potentially stormwater rates. We have a few that we have to re-review from November, so there was the ice cream vendor
Fingerprint.
bylaw that we will have to revisit. There will be the capital plan, which will be, we always do that one in May. There'd be any of the budget transfers. We have talked about potential zoning, so depending on where we are with the RTD in UGC, there may be necessary
right.
zoning changes. We previously had some zoning changes at Clocktown properties that were
Right.
deferred from November. So the planning board has not decided whether they're going to recommend those forward. It's really, we're in the discussion stages at this point. So I will start tracking the potential warrant articles, and we can report out on those as we move forward.
Okay. All right, thanks. So does this schedule look okay to everybody?
Yeah.
Anything?
Looks
So
pretty
the-
typical of our,
So we're gonna open the
Yep.
warrant tonight?
Yep.
All right, so we need to make that clerical
Look at
error
it.
change, because this is February 21st, 2019.
And it's the 20th.
Okay, so,
21st last year.
Well, it's
Oh,
21st
right.
tomorrow. I put it for like, we're sending it
Oh,
out
okay.
tomorrow,
Okay.
thinking, but that's
So
fine.
that's
I'm-
okay.
It doesn't matter.
I just,
Yeah,
we
we
were
can-
saying that, I just
yep.
wanna make sure.
all
We
right.
can do that.
So, the motion, do I have a motion here
Sure.
about the?
I move that we open the 2019 annual town meeting warrant, and the deadline for notice of intent to submit proposed warrant articles is March 22nd, 2019.
Second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So the motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, Jen. Okay, so the next item is the BAA spring grants. So, who's going to talk to us about that? Steve or Jen?
Oh, Susan.
Susan, look at Susan.
Yeah.
She's-
Okay, so what I had proposed is that we open up the BAA grant rounds, effective immediately, whenever you guys say it's good, and that they be submitted by March 31st. Additionally, I am asking that you guys also go on and appoint the BAA subcommittee, if that's how you choose to go through, so that we don't have to come back again for that motion in the
Yeah,
future.
that's a very good idea.
Makes sense.
All right, so Steve and I have been the subcommittee, so is any? Oh, boy. Okay, so,
Here, I'll do it, I'll make it official.
well, before we move,
I'll make the motion.
You make them,
then.
okay.
but before we move, I just want to make note of our application. And one of the criteria is that organizations and individuals who have received BAA grants during the previous 12 months are required to submit a description of their activities and programming provided to the committee. And we really haven't
Haven't done that yet.
maintained that.
I think it's important.
And I
that
think we
do.
should do it this year, so we can kind of cross-reference this round of applications with the previous 12 months. And anybody that is a duplicate, we're going to need to have them provide, I don't think they have to come to a meeting per se, but I think they just need to
an
provide
update.
some documentation that this is what we did. Could be a simple email, I think, but just some
We'll have it tomorrow.
acknowledgement that this is what we did, how we spent the money.
So would it be, excuse me, would it be helpful if I took the spring grants that you guys awarded last spring and just contact each of them and ask them if they've spent the funding and how?
Yeah, that's great.
And not worry about the fall ones, just focus on the spring ones, because the fall ones are only potentially 4 to 6 months out?
Yeah.
Makes
I mean, that
sense. I
sounds
mean,
reasonable.
very often our fall rounds aren't necessarily spent at that point in time.
Right.
So that would probably be, so if there's any duplicates, once we get the applications in from last spring, our expectation is some kind of report back. Does that make sense?
Can I also make a suggestion that you make it a requirement? So if you're asking for more money, it would be nice to have that documentation, so even if we
With
just.
the
That's what I would
application?
With the
suggest,
application, so
right? It
that
says it-
Susan, Susan can do some of that legwork, but, I think we have
Yeah.
it as
I
part.
don't know
It
if
is
we
part
need
of- it's
Susan
right
to do
here.
the
Yeah.
legwork. I mean, it says it
Yeah.
right on the application,
Okay.
right? That if you've submitted and gotten a grant from us in the past, we want you to show us what you've
Right.
done with that money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So my feeling is, if that's
Screen
not
it.
part of the application,
then
then
we
we
send
don't
it back.
consider that application, or
Okay.
we send it
Send
back.
it back,
Sure.
right.
I
Okay.
think it's
So
pretty
you want that with
straightforward.
the new application that's
Yeah.
coming in?
Well, it's
Okay.
actually on
It's-
here, I
it's-
believe.
It's already,
Right?
yeah.
It's on it.
But we
so-
haven't really policed that, so I
Correct.
think we
Okay.
should.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
And so we
good,
can
good.
really we can do a quick look,
Yeah.
before we send it to the subcommittee,
Yeah.
making sure that anything that's going to actually so that way.
You're right.
Whatever hits that criteria, that
And-
we address it.
And
Right,
For
if
sure.
it's not there, remind them that we need it.
And the applications run the gamut from, very professional to
Handwritten.
handwritten, scribbled,
Right.
and, so, but yeah, I think you're right, that's the way to handle it. Good. Okay,
Are there any
right,
other criteria or something we feel we want to look at in regards to this round? Or do you guys feel that how we've been doing it and how you've been making decisions has worked? Because I know we've come across different things about who we pay or what we pay or how we pay and,
Yeah.
what kind of, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering,
I think the application works. Other than, I think we do need to have some clarity with certain situations that we've had in the past when, we've had an applicant that's part of their application is a payment to them,
right.
right? So I think we need to clarify that component.
Well, and that's what I mean,
Right.
right? Because that has come up over the last, since I've been sitting here, right?
Yeah.
That, we get an application for a program, and part of that program is paying the person who's running it.
Right.
And for some of those, we've done that, and for others, we haven't. And I go back and forth, right? Part of me is thinking, okay, some of these people, this is how they're making their livelihood, right? Their arts or whatever whatever they're doing, that's part of their livelihood, and they're willing to do it for the community. And so they're looking for a grant so that the community members don't have to pay, but they're still providing the service. Just like if we hire a lawyer to do something for the community, we're not expecting the lawyer to volunteer their time.
Yeah.
So I think either we have to have a group discussion or we have to decide what we're gonna do with that moving
Yeah.
forward.
I agree, and we've talked about having, revising this.
Yeah.
Every
Oh,
year,
yeah.
every round, we talk about that. So I think at some point, once we get past this round, we
Yeah.
should do it, clarify it, and,
Right.
okay.
All right,
Okay.
thanks. So,
I move that we open the BAA grant round with a deadline for submission of Friday, March 31st, 2019, with Steve Mitchell and Rob Scherer being the subcommittee to review them.
all right.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, all right.
And thank you both for
Thank you.
being willing to do that.
Well, your turn is
Steve
coming
does-
I
up,
know.
so
Fortunately for me, Steve does the heavy lifting on this, so, okay.
payback.
I know.
All right, so the next one is the Board of Selectmen scholarship discussion. So that's you guys. So, all right, who wants to talk about that?
So Yolanda and Joe, you've been,
Yeah.
for the last number of years, been responsible for this. And, are there any changes in terms of this application, you think?
No, I
I
think,
don't think so. I think it works well, and similar to what you said, Steve, we get the ones that are, completely handwritten.
Yeah.
And then you get the other ones that are typed with a professional resume and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, and just to recap, this is 2 scholarships that you guys review and recommend.
$200 each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes to a boy and a girl.
And they just have to live in Ashland. They can go to any high school, but they
Right.
have to live in their place of residence has to be Ashland.
And the deadline for the applicant,
Is May
May
1st.
first.
and it's on the town website, I presume? People can find it somewhere?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
And it's at the,
It's submitted to the.
Should be at the high school
At the high
as
school
well.
guidance
I'll
office.
send after you guys do it, then I
Okay.
usually reach out to everybody.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Very
All
good.
right, so I get to make a motion now.
All right.
All right, and I move that we open the 2019 Board of Selectmen Scholarship Program with a due date of May 1st, 2019. The recipients will be 2 students that are residents of Ashland, and the scholarships will be in the amount of $1,500 each, and that we appoint Yolanda Greaves and Joe Mignani to the Scholarship Committee, which will review the applications.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so motion is unanimous. Thank you for doing the scholarship. and-
Very good.
All right. Now, the next
Fun to
item,
read.
It is fun.
yeah, the next item is the Eversource update. So, I guess I'll try to summarize what's been going on, and we can get into discussion. I think we all feel it's important to continue to keep this subject before the residents of Ashland, and let people know what we've been dealing with and some of the actions we've been taking. I'll try to summarize. This process, for those of you who are familiar with it, started, I think, over a year ago, and the basic short proposal is that Eversource, our natural gas provider, has made an application to the Energy Facility Siting Board, which is a state agency, to expand the existing high-pressure gas pipeline, which is a transmission line that goes from Hopkinton through Ashland to Route 126, and is a transmission pipeline. That is, it supplies folks, I guess, downstream of us in Framingham and other towns. And in Ashland, it is a high-pressure line, so it's different than your usual gas distribution line that goes to your home. This is a high-pressure transmission line. So this line, it dates back to the 50s, and Eversource has applied to expand the capacity of the size of the pipe from 6 inches to 12 inches. It's a 5-year project. They're proposing under the guidelines to start it, I believe, this fall, or 2019, 2020. The existing gas pipeline goes through many people's property, through the state park, through existing near existing buildings, through the Chestnut Street apartments, about 2 to 3 miles through the town of Ashland. So this process started probably over a year ago, with Eversource filing formal motions with the EFSB, the Energy Facility Siting Board. They've had meetings. They had a meeting with us. They had an open house here in Town Hall. They had at least one other public meeting. They invited abutters. There are probably, I'm not sure offhand, but probably 100 properties they're going through in Ashland. I could be wrong about that. So the abutters are people who have the pipeline on their property, should all know about this process, and have been having discussions with Eversource. During this process, the town has been monitoring and has filed for formal intervenor status, which is our option under the siting law. So the town, as well as a number of residents, have, under this process, filed questions and made comments to the EFSB. And some of these comments have been answered by Eversource as part of the process. Eversource, there's also a lot of wetlands crossing, and also they are required to file under the MEPA Act, an environmental impact report, which has been filed and is also available for review. And my understanding, that's been approved by the Secretary of Environmental Affairs under the MEPA Act. So this process has been moving along. We have raised a number of questions. This board and our town council and town manager, staff, have spent a fair amount of time going through this process. we decided a few months ago to file for intervenor status, and have now have filed with the EFSB expert witnesses, and we've decided that we're going to need assistance with this process. And I think I can state that we're in the process of working with a consultant to represent us at the board and help us go through this process. I think I can speak for all the members that we want to make sure that we do our due diligence with this. This is going to be a 5-year process, and we don't all agree on every aspect of it, but I think we agree that we need to be very careful with this and treat it as a high priority. I think I'm going to try to summarize at least the issues here. I think there's really, I think, 3 aspects, and I've raised the issue of challenging the necessity for the gas pipeline. The board has agreed and is united on the fact that we need to look very carefully at the 2 alternatives. I should have stated in my description that there are 2 alternatives presented. The preferred alternative is the existing gas pipeline route, and I think they refer to it as the secondary, the alternative route is a route that would go through the roadways in Ashland. And all this information is available online at the Energy Facilities Siting Board, State Department of Public Utilities, and it's EFSB 18-02 if people want to look it up. That's EFSB 18-02. So, as I was saying, I believe the board is united at least with on two aspects of this. Is that it is very important that we look at and evaluate the 2 alternatives, and that the town have a very good and detailed assessment of the 2 alternatives, and that also the town look at the effects and how this project is being done, and if there's we want to make sure that we're taking all measures to mitigate the impact or help us host this project for 5 years and all the disruption that will occur. We also, I'm sure, all want to make sure that this project is done in as safe a manner as possible. We are under severe time constraints, and I think that's unfortunate. And I'll just, my personal perspective in this, I think we should be pushing back on the necessity for the pipeline, at least to make sure that we do a detailed analysis of whether or not it really is necessary in the age of climate change to basically be expanding a fossil fuel. Now, natural gas is more efficient than many other fossil fuels, but it still is. So that's my personal opinion, that we should be pushing hard on that. So that's my kind of commentary on it, and so I'll turn it over to the other board members for comments or thoughts on this.
No, I thought you described it reasonably well, and we as Rob suggested, we're under time constraints. We came into this process rather late in terms of becoming an intervener, as well as gathering an analysis. So that's a challenge for us right now. But I think we're all committed to having our representation at the table. So I think that's really where we're at this point.
Yolanda and Joe?
I think you guys said what you needed to say, and I think it's pretty well out there what we need to do. So people just watch our actions in the next few weeks, that's all. Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to add is that I think, unfortunately, this is something that's been, it's been thrust on us. It's really not something we're in control of. And as we did our strategic long-term planning, we weren't planning on a lot of resources and time to go into this. But I think, unfortunately, we, at least over the next few months, are really going to need to prioritize that. Is that something that I think you know, and so it's gonna cost us funds that we weren't planning on and
Well, I
staff
think
time that
at this
we
point,
weren't.
Rob, we're in executive session regarding to those discussions. So I think you've got to be careful as to, you know, how we discuss this. So at this point, I think you've relayed the information, I think, as generally as possible. And let's leave it at that.
Well, I think there's always a fine line between making sure you're communicating with the public about important.
Can, once
And I think
our
you've done
notes
it.
from executive
Yeah.
session have been approved and are released.
Yeah, and I
All
think
right.
you've done a good job of that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts? Is there anybody here who wants to talk to us about this, residents about this? Okay, well, all right, so, Mark.
Okay. It's been talked about, it was brought up as an agenda item at the Board of Health last night.
Oh.
Yeah, it was talked a little bit. I'm only looking out, as you said, Mr. Chairman, about the safety of it. There's been news of gas explosions in the towns that have missed pipes, older pipes, and connections that wasn't adhered correctly. I want to ask the question is, how old are these pipes that they're going to work on, or beside, because there's two pipes that's going down, the original and their pipes. What's the age of our pipes?
So the original pipe dates back to the 50s. So that's, you can do the math there, 40, 50,
None of them
70.
are our pipes.
They're all theirs.
It's all, it's all Eversource pipes.
Okay,
Now, I should note that Eversource has stated that there are no safety concerns with the existing pipe. And there have been no incidents in the last 5 years.
in Ashland,
In Ashland, yes.
but other towns,
The pipe at all.
Pipe. Not just in Ashland, but the pipe is, there's no safety concern for replacing this pipe. It is for a need for transmission of natural gas through Ashland.
that was said at the Board of Health, yes, for that reason.
Well, I'm not sure, I mean, they need to take proper safety precautions, but as with any project, I'm sure there's some risk, but hopefully they've got it under control.
Of course, with other projects, you gotta take those conditions. But you also, was brought up that the butters, their property and the roads that they live on will be construction broken up and constructed on.
Mhm. All right, thanks, Mark. Other, Charles, Chuck?
I want to thank you for, intervening on this. I really appreciate that. I had two comments. One is just to note that while natural gas is more efficient, it is at least as bad or worse than anything else vis-a-vis climate change, because there is so much leakage, particularly when they do the fracking, but also secondarily from the pipes. And methane is 30 times as bad a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide. So there's a empirical dispute about this. I don't want to get into it, whether it's better or worse than coal, but it's in that range. It's not a good energy source. But the main thing I wanted to ask is, how did we get these two ways? I mean, it seems to me they presented an alternate map which is so terrible in terms of digging up all of the streets that, I mean, is there no third possibility here? I was really struck that they really wanted this one that follows their
Well,
previous.
I'll take a crack at addressing that. So it was what they proposed and have proposed, and we have not yet seriously questioned the two alternatives. I think, at least I'm hoping that as we have a consultant, an expert, that will evaluate, and presumably if there's logical alternatives that we should push for, we'll hear about that. Is that the understanding of the board or thinking on that?
My understanding, though, Chuck, was that if you look at that file, and I didn't read through that entire citing file, it's pretty long.
Dense.
But they looked at a variety of other options, and they dismissed. Now, I don't know, how serious a look that was. Was it just a cursory review and say, that's not gonna work and so on? That I don't know. But I seem to recall during my scan that they did look at a series of things, Probably asking the wrong body of non-experts here.
It'd be interesting to see
Yeah.
what the expert says about it. But
Chuck,
anyway, thank you.
Just for the record, I
Yeah.
have to interrupt you, just for the record. We know who you are, but the people out, maybe out in the
Yeah,
audience don't know.
I'm sorry, I'm Chuck Lids, and I live on 150 Oregon Road.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Hi, Matt Marshquist, 12 Weston Road. I'm on the Sustainability Committee. I'm echoing Chuck's comments about the two routes. Neither one seems ideal. I think it's a hard thing to thread a pipeline through the town, but there are serious issues with either route, so I appreciate the due diligence that the town is doing. We're devoting time and resources to this, but I think the people who live near those areas would appreciate the effort that's going into it. I have a question around executive. I'm new to this process. It's this whole pipeline approval process. Is it likely that this will come out of executive session before the hearings that they have? Or
Well, I think Steve was referring to our executive session where we spoke about certain things.
Okay.
So that's just limited to what we feel we should keep confidential in terms of, having that we shouldn't be public at this, in terms of our own bargaining our position vis-a-vis, say, Eversource, that
Yeah.
kind of, that's what that's about.
Yeah, and I think that we would, this is something, based on the timeline that we're faced with, I think it will come out of executive session fairly early, at some point. I wouldn't think it would be an extended period of time. But, I hope you appreciate, that that kind of need for, particularly if we're negotiating with a party.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
But it is a very public process. Everything and the actions that we take, we'll publicly announce any actions, and they'll all be related there.
Yeah,
in the
eventually they
documents.
appear on that page.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, we've just been told we have till March, what is it? March 7th? By the presiding officer to do the next step, which is present
Pre-trial.
pre-trial.
Filed.
So everybody's aware that we have a short time frame.
That's
So,
very short, yeah.
At least under this particular set of rules, so.
All right, well, I appreciate the efforts that are going into it, and I appreciate looking at this from a lot of perspectives, not just the engineering, but also the necessity, and
Right.
I think it's important to consider those things, so thank you for that.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
In terms of the alternative, there's, I think, in terms of the letters that we've received, and this is something that, I'm sure we're all concerned about. Some people are saying that the street route, although longer and more expensive, is safer for many of the residents and abutters because it's under the street and it's further from homes. So that would be, I think, an important thing for us to come with a clear perspective on if that's really true or not. To me, that's one of the, when you look at the routes. But, there's so many issues here, so.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else from folks?
No.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, so thank you for that. We'll move on.
Oh, town manager reports already, okay.
I'll be extra quick.
I have the memorandum of agreement. Is that off?
No, so yeah, we pulled that off. That's,
We did.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Was
It should
that
be-
posted at any time, or
didn't know that.
what's that?
was that posted at any time?
It was on the updated agenda.
I know,
so
but did we
pulled it.
post that at one time and
Yes,
change it?
yes.
We did, so you should probably just explain that it's
So
off.
we are working through negotiations with the fire union. We were hopeful that we would have it ready for you to ratify sort of due to vacations. It's really, there's nothing necessarily that's holding it up. It's more just timing. We didn't have it done in time for the meeting. So we would anticipate it that it would be on the next agenda.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Update on, okay, town manager report, so go ahead, acting, are you the, no, what are you?
Yes, yes, for the next.
Acting town manager for another 5 days.
Yeah, for a whole 2 days.
Oh, 2 days.
So I believe Michael at our last meeting had informed you that we were going through the process, the rating process with Standard & Poor's. We are pleased and excited to announce that they affirmed our AAA rating, so that's great news. And in fact, they actually even upgraded a few of our characteristics, particularly around our financial policies and our financial management. They went from strong to very strong, which is exciting. And then also around our flexibility and sort of where we are in terms of having some financial flexibility and doing better than sort of we had projected.
Yeah.
And so that again went from strong to very strong. So, you know, this is a nice sort of third-party look at our finances and our financial policy. And so we're, you know, clearly doing very well, and
It's very
Yeah.
exciting.
it
Yeah,
is.
very
and,
nice to hear.
You know,
Thank you.
Brittany does a lot of hard work
Yeah,
on this.
please
and it
thank
really
the
shows.
the staff, particularly
Absolutely.
Britt, and yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it's great news.
Yep.
And then the other thing we're gonna try to do moving forward is keep the priorities that we agreed on as a board and sort of have ongoing status updates. And so this first one would be under our public safety building. The building committee had put out an RFQ for project managers. We received 10 proposals. We reviewed those and shortlisted 3. We held the interviews last week, and we're meeting again tomorrow with a group to decide on who we'd like to identify as our top choice, and then we'll begin negotiating costs with them. Once we have them on board, we can then move forward with an architect to do the design work.
Design. And that's where that 3.5 million comes into play.
Well, the money that was authorized will also go to pay for our
that.
OPM as well.
Okay.
So that is part of it. That was built
sense.
in the assessment
Oh,
that
good.
we received,
Okay, great.
or the estimate. Riverwalk, just quickly, I believe it was last week, I went to the Concom to get an amendment for our order of conditions that will allow us to do work in the river. So when we received our proposals for the steel bridge, I think I reported that came in exceptionally high, or higher than we had anticipated. And so working with Green, who is our engineer, they thought that if we do a multi-span timber bridge with several pilings through the river, we'd actually be able to decrease the cost by hundreds of thousands of dollars, which would keep us within the budget allotted that we had presented to town meeting. So Concom gave us that amendment. We're now working with Green. One of the requirements is to talk with EPA just to make sure that they don't have any issues with us driving piles into the sort of the floor of the inlet. We had conceptually talked to them prior to even considering this option, and they did not have any initial concerns, but as part of the amendment, the Concom wants us to sort of have that more formal. So we're working through that as well. So hopefully we'll have another RFP or IFB looking for bids in the next several weeks so that we can still stay on schedule and construct that bridge over the spring and hopefully finish that project before the fall.
Nice,
Fantastic.
awesome.
On the Warren District, we have conducted the interviews for the project manager. Joe Richardson, our Director of Facilities, has made a recommendation. We have an offer out. We do not have it accepted yet, so hopefully, again, we'll have more information at our next meeting on that, but that is moving forward. We continue to have that on our radar and moving that forward.
Just remind me, what kind of position is this? Is this a temporary position? How are we
So
playing
it's
this?
yeah, it's sort of it's a longer-term temporary position. So I think what we had initially talked about, it's not 6 months. I think what we talked about is in the 2-year range.
Yeah.
So to try to
Okay.
get some of the big projects moving and in a way that we can actually,
So that's clear to the applicants that
it is,
this is,
yes.
okay. Okay.
And then just lastly, on the rail transit, we don't have a lot to report here. I believe since we've met last, the Y has closed on their property, which is great news. We'll obviously, sort of watch that process as it comes and help support them in any way that we can. We're continuing, we've obviously closed, and then Michael is continuing to work with UGC. At this point, we don't have any additional information than we previously presented, but that will, we'll continue to work through that as well.
And do you get the feeling that they're still interested in still moving with the process?
I believe so, yeah, and so my understanding is they were taking information from the neighbors
Oh,
and trying
okay.
to sort of rework some of their,
Concerns.
yeah, rework some of their drawings and concerns and their plans. But we just haven't received anything.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Jen. And how's your week without Michael been going? Any-
Going fine, yeah.
Yeah,
We're,
good.
we're holding our own.
All right, very good.
Nice
All right. So that brings us, I believe, to board reports. So we'll start with Mr. Mignani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You were very nice to offer a moment of silence for everybody that we lost. I just want to say something to the Alberini family. My dad used to work for the town for many years. He was the highway foreman before the DPW actually became the entity that it is today. And a lot of people may not realize, but Benny was an elected official. His role as the highway surveyor, highway supervisor, was an elected position, and it was a yearly term, a yearly term. It wasn't like a 3-year; it was a yearly. So every year he had to run, and so I remember those days. Those are when I was maybe this high, and but it was a unique situation, and things have greatly changed over the years.
Yeah.
The work hasn't changed, but the people and the positions have changed to the point, and I just want to express my sincerest condolences to Bernice and Eddie and Donna and all their family for the loss of their dad, grandfather, and great-grandfather.
Yeah.
Good guy, a lot of laughs, but he was a townie. He
Yeah.
came up through the rank and file.
How many
And,
years did he serve as
yeah, I was
commissioner?
trying to think. I was trying to think that when I was waiting in line at the wake yesterday, and it had to be close to 15 to 20 years
Yeah.
in that time span. There was a time when he gave it up, and some others, took over. Like my dad took over for a year, and then Benny decided to come back because he had all the equipment. The town didn't have any pieces of equipment; it was all rented. So you can, it was nuts. It was crazy. I mean, how do you take care of roads and everything without the proper equipment? I remember my dad took it over. They gave him a pickup truck, 4 shovels, and a pick.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's what he had to work with. And he had 5 people that he had working with him. That included DPW. That was the water department, sewer department. You name it. It was all one entity. But it was nuts. It was crazy. But
How times have changed.
have they changed? Big time. Have they changed big time? But again, the condolences to everybody and Cheryl and her family for their loss. It's just, it's been a very difficult week for the town as a whole. And we, as a small community, take everything to heart and soul. And my thoughts and prayers are still with Team Jake and Melissa and Tony and their family and all his friends. And I'll tell you what, he has a heart bigger than I could ever have, and the decisions that he's had to make, God bless him. That's all I can say. All I can say. He's a very courageous individual, and I just wish that I have that at some point in my time. But, my thoughts and prayers are with the family.
Sure.
But that's all I have to offer today, sir.
All right, thank
I was
you.
on vacation, so I didn't do much of anything.
Good for you. That's good.
Well said, Joe.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I too want to offer my condolences to those who have lost their loved ones over the last week. It's, as a community, we really can rally around when things happen, and but we can also rally around like what we're doing with with Jake and his family. And so again, we're thinking about you, Jake and Melissa and Haley and the whole family, and know that as a community, we support you and thank you for sharing your story with all of us. Couple of things. Back on Friday, the last day of school, all the schools celebrated PJ Ferrier Kindness Day. It was celebrated in all of the schools, and for those of you who don't know, and most of you I'm sure do, PJ Ferrier was another young man that we in Ashland lost due to his battle of cancer. And it was nice to see the schools recognize the kind of person that PJ was and pass that on, because that is truly how we teach our students and teach each other, is by learning from those who have gone before us. So, thanks to the schools for recognizing that.
Absolutely.
A couple events coming up on February 28th, MetroCom in 2050. This is an event being sponsored by MAPC. It's happening in Framingham at the Memorial Hall. It's open from 3 to 8. It's not a 5-hour thing. You don't have to go hang out for 5 hours. You can go hang out for a half hour, and you can go and give your input. MAPC is our regional planning committee agency. So they're coming to different places. They've had one of these in Salem. They've had one of these down in Norwood. We had one here in our Ashland Public Library for local officials, and this is for the people in the community to come, give their input, answer their questions, and say what they see for the community. So again, that's Thursday, February 28th from 3 to 8 at the Memorial Building in Framingham. You can go to the MAPC website to get more information and to register. Also on February 28th in the evening, from 7 to 9 at Los Cabos, the Ashland Women's Group is having their next meeting. It's an opportunity for women to come together, talk to each other, and just find different ways to participate. The next meeting will be held that we're doing is discussing volunteerism. And we know here in Ashland, so many people volunteer, and it's amazing how many of these women are not volunteering but want to participate. So that's what we're discussing. Two more things. On March 4th at the Ashland High School is Conversations versus Confrontation. It's from 7 to 9. It's part of their series of conversations that they're having with students and adults in the community. It's supposed to be a good one. The person who is speaking is known for his slam poetry, so he's going to be performing a couple of things.
We could teach that.
Probably.
Slam
This
poetry.
board, no, not slam. Oh, conversations.
Conversations
rather than-
versus
Oh, absolutely.
confrontation, that's
Yes,
true.
absolutely.
And then the last thing is the reminder for our stormwater discussion. I don't have the times, but happening Tuesday, March 5th.
5th, yes.
In this building someplace, so
Right.
be on the lookout for more detailed information on that. And that's all I have.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Yolanda.
Very
Steve?
good. So at our,
6:30.
6:30, thank you. So
You're
March 5th at 6:30.
so at our last meeting, we had a public hearing related to one of our alcohol license holders. The next day was the next day? I think it was the next day, or just a couple days
Couple days
afterwards.
afterwards.
the train.
The
training
the
program.
police chief has held annually a alcohol policy seminar. And so it was broken up this year into two segments, one for actual license holders, and then the second one for officials in public safety. So I was able to attend, and very, again, always informative. The gentleman that actually holds the seminars from Natick, he runs a company that trains, does tip certifications and so on. So it was, it's always enlightening, and, you realize, how little you know about alcohol policy. But one thing he did say is, he said, we have, in his estimation, very good policy. So I know we revamped it several years ago, but
Was there any handouts or electronic information that we could possibly get from that? Because I unfortunately was not able to
Yeah.
attend,
Yeah.
but
No,
I would
was
love to, if there was any electronic
So
information
I
available.
do have one, it was kind of a talking point.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Okay.
share it with you,
Okay.
but it wasn't,
Like detailed.
it was more things he spoke about. One of the things that is a big thing that he kept hammering home is how everyone's always a step ahead of all the businesses. You know, we have recommended here that people get scanners. Well, he showed us why scanners don't work. So he kind of went over, because I attended both sessions, he kind of went over some of the things, and it's amazing. You know, originally they were getting duplicate licenses out of Connecticut. Then when the businesses started not taking out-of-state licenses, they went to Massachusetts. So then they were showing the businesses all of the ways with a simple flashlight or holding something up to the light,
Right.
how to tell if something was, so,
A real one or not.
so none of that's gonna show in the pamphlet,
Right,
but it was
okay.
really good, and I'm happy to
Yeah.
share that with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he does a great presentation, and, but not every one of our license holders attended,
Right,
unfortunately.
right.
But, sufficient number did, and, it's, fortunately, we don't have, we haven't been faced with a lot of problems. We've
Well,
had our share,
And
but,
I have to say, that night, again, I wasn't able to attend,
yeah,
but we went to, I'm not gonna say which restaurant, we walked into a restaurant, and the owner does not know that I'm on the board. Our 23-year-old daughter was with us, but she did not have her ID, and they did not serve her. She's like, yep, we went to training today, so we cannot serve.
Oh, that's funny.
Good.
So it was good to hear.
yeah,
Good.
good. So that was,
Depends on your perspective, I guess. Your daughter probably wasn't all that.
No, she understood it,
understood
she
it.
respected it, she's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"Okay, my fault for not bringing my ID.
Sure.
yeah, but it's a good program, it's good that we do it,
Yeah.
and, so,
Definitely.
next thing was, on February the 8th, I attended the Metro West Visitors Bureau annual meeting and breakfast, and I've gone for a number of years, and it's always an interesting time well spent, because there's always speakers there that tell their story of their businesses or their programs in our Metro West area. And this year, there were a couple very interesting ones that I've had some follow-up with. One was a woman, her name is Stacy David, who is the chair of the Franklin Cultural Council, and was very involved as part of the committee that achieved the Franklin Cultural District. So I met with Stacy to kind of pick her brain about that process and so on. So she was very, very helpful. And then the second, one of the other presentations was the associate professor at Framingham State University, who is heading their hospitality program.
Oh, yeah.
Hospitality program is fairly new. It's not located at the Warren Center as yet, but
Yeah,
that
but
is,
that's-
that's
right.
the plan.
Looking to go.
His name is John Palabiak, and, just a nice man. But I was impressed with his presentation, but you could see, sitting there, the wheels are turning. Well, how can we collaborate
Yeah.
potentially as they get this up and running? And so it was good time well spent. We had lunch today and got to know him, got to know John, so it was good. And I think, for me, it just kind of ties into all of the activities that we're increasingly doing. And, how do we do more of them, and how is it we just increase that capacity of our, I guess, quality of life, I'll call it. So it was good, and that's it.
All right, great, thanks, Steve. Okay, I wanted to comment a little, I knew Paul Wyszykowski a bit from, I used to go and chat with him when he worked at the library, so, and I think since he left, I've been to the library a lot less, so I don't know, maybe it has to do with, I guess that's, I gotta get to the library more often, but I did, he helped coach with me on Little League, and so you can really tell about somebody's personality when you're trying to corral a bunch of 8 and 9-year-old boys playing baseball. And he had a great kind of wry sense of laid back, presence there. So I really appreciated his help, and it was great working with him. So I wanted to say that about Paul. I just had a few other items to note. I don't know if anybody, we got that invitation about the solar rooftop webinar. Do people remember that? I intended to kind of look at it today. This is a measure to put solar panels on new buildings.
and I don't know, I have to say much about it. I understand that our own state representative, Jack Lewis, is sponsoring a statewide legislation to do, it has some kind of incentive or requirement for solar panels on new buildings, including homes. So I don't know much about it, but, you know, I intend to find out more about that. And I'm just lobby one of our members on the public safety building to consider solar panels when you go to design that. Seemed to be a good application. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and I don't know, again, it's something that we haven't heard a lot about, but apparently, and I don't know, Yolanda, if you come across this in your, with the MAPC and the regional work, is that the MBTA and actually Mass DOT, I guess, is sponsoring a commuter, MBTA and commuter rail Vision 40 project, something like that. And I just, and we actually know, I know of 2 people who are on this committee, Joss Ostroff, which I think some of you know, and Representative Carolyn Dykema. So it's a commuter rail vision process with the survey. I have to say that I don't know much about it. I've kind of been hearing about it. It's been some write-ups in the paper. So I don't know if there's...
I think there's 2 things going on. There's a Vision 40, which probably about a year to a year and a half ago, I went into some meetings in Boston. And that was sort of a vision of transportation by the year 2040.
Right.
That's one process. I also know there's been some meetings that I want to say Michael went to one for MBTA communities that, so particularly people along the Framingham-Worcester line, there was a meeting probably sometime in January where they brought the community, you know, so like town managers
I remember that one,
of communities that were touched by the MBTA.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of discussion going on about transportation and how it might change and what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Yolanda was just speaking about, this kind of our corridor train system. Dale Hamill, who's a VP of Finance at Framingham State, is on the board of that group.
Oh,
he is? I
And,
didn't.
and I've had some conversations with Dale relative, you know, I'm still hot on getting our train station up to a certain
Vamped up a
level,
little
right?
bit. Yeah.
So he's, you know, he's certainly aware of it. It's, you know, again, you know, relative to the magnitude of the issues for the commuter rail, you know, it's minor. Big to us, minor to them.
You're talking about the station.
The station itself and the condition of it and, you know.
Well, I think, you know, just, you know, we are a major commuter rail station, as we all know, on this line, and many of the people using it are from out of town. So we're really kind of a host region with really a big, you know, both, we have our own residents who go into Boston, and then, of course, a few take it outbound to Worcester. I'm probably one of the 8 people that do that. But you know, it's a big factor in both residents and people from out of town that come to use our station.
Sure.
So, you know, I think we all understand the importance of kind of monitoring this process and being actively participating. I haven't sensed a lot of outreach to us directly as local officials, so hopefully we can get more involved.
I think we get emails about a lot of this. It's just a matter of if you open them up.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot that comes through. It's a matter of what you decide to look at and open up.
Well, you may see
follow up
more
on.
than, you know, from your involvement in some of these regional
No,
things.
most of them it's, you know, Board of Selectmen.
I have not been,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think we've been,
Yeah.
I don't think we've been directly, like this vision process, at least not lately. I know we,
Get MAPC
Yeah.
emails constantly.
I think they're good in trying to get us involved, but
Well,
I'm saying the
they're
T
invo-
and,
But you would have probably gotten something from MAPC regarding the transportation one, because they're the ones who are, they're working on that as well.
yeah.
Next time
Yeah.
I get one, I'll make sure I
Yeah,
forward
because I
it
don't
to
think
you.
we're, you know, in terms of people getting our formal weigh in, I don't see a lot of that going. You really have to, you know, as you do, assert yourself into these processes.
yeah.
And I think that's the challenge for us volunteers, trying to keep track of everything that's going on. So,
Yeah.
all right. And with that, I think
Second.
I will take a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Let Jen go home.